Thank you for joining us on the news.
Thank you.
Are you satisfied with the terms of the deal?
I think it's a good deal, considering where we're coming from Copenhagen. But I must say that um, let's see how this thing totally unfold. I hope there will be the kind of commitment required to ensure that we really can benefit from the gains of this decision, because we went through this in 1997 in Kyoto. We thought that all things were well, but we knew from history that actually there was no commitment. That's where we are now today. But I hope that there's a new change, there's a new change of attitude and behavior, and hopefully come 2020 we will start seeing that the commitment that was agreed to in Paris will actually be implemented.
And that's exactly the fear of some people, that this commitment you speak of, Professor, will not be adhered to by various countries down the road. How do you think this deal will be made binding on all the countries involved?
What is slightly different at this time is that it is a voluntary commitment, and it is not one cap or one size fits all. Unlike in Kyoto, where the things were prescribed that, look, all countries, you must reduce your emission by 12%, by 8% from 1990 level. But this time, each country came with its agenda, what it could possibly reduce in the next couple of years, and that every 5 years there will be an occasion where you can review your compliance. So we hope that because this is voluntary, it could happen. The other beauty here is that all the three majors, who are really the biggest carbon footprinters, the United States, China, and India, they came together and said, look, we work with you. And also the leadership that came out of this conference this time, which is France, has actually demonstrated that it is doable. 90% of power that France uses is from non-carbon sources. So we hope that the technology has also improved. We are better prepared as a new world to face this challenge, because the consequences are really, really great. So I think we have to use common sense and behave better.
Professor, how does that translate into a greener environment for a country like Nigeria? And what role can individuals in Nigeria play to achieve this goal?
Well, we all have to play all our roles very well. First, Nigeria must start re-strategizing, because in the last set of opportunities where the Clean Development Mechanism was the instrument of implementation of cutting down greenhouse gases, especially in the developing countries, Nigeria didn't take too much of the advantage. Now, Nigeria, I would say, must come up with an adaptation council, climate change adaptation council, where you have both the private sector and the public sector, all key players, finance, ecological fund, environment, agriculture, water, all sorts of people come together to start thinking of how to take advantage of the over 100 billion that will be available every year starting from 2020, to be able to mitigate and adapt to Nigeria's situation. In terms of the individuals, of course, we have to behave better. First, our consumption pattern must not be as reckless as it is today. why must I have more than one car? Or why must I always drive in my car alone? These are the kind of common sense things that can reduce our carbon prints. Also, I can say that for us in Nigeria, we need to bring in awareness and education so that people don't again obstruct those footpaths where you can have flooding, which could be the consequences. And then in low-lying areas where when you have sea level rise, eventually, if it will happen, to get inundated. So we need to know a lot about the consequences of climate change. And we should allow all the institutions that will guide us to get us prepared and adapt also play their role. I can see met, environment, water, agriculture coming more closely and help our situation.
Professor, let me ask you this. What are the implications of not following through on this deal? For many, climate change is still an abstract idea. It doesn't affect them on a day-to-day, especially in countries that are still developing and don't have the issues of China, for instance, who had a pollution crisis recently. What will you tell a Nigerian who doesn't believe, but hasn't hit home to him how bad a problem climate change can become? What do you tell that person?
Well, we already seen the consequences. I think we just need to bring into our consciousness more strongly that climate change is real. By 2020, 2050 thereabouts, the temperature rise could be as high as 3 additional degrees centigrade. And what that seriously means for us is that in Nigeria, we will have those drier zones will be less productive. There will be less of food. And the wetter zones will probably have more rains, so there will be flooding. And for those in the low-lying part of Nigeria, the coastal zone will likely be inundated, and then we will have submergence. So really, we will be affected as individuals. Nobody is far away from this. It started happening. You can see the way we've been having flooding in the last 3, 4, 5 years. Yes, maybe as a scientist, I can say there's no direct evidence, but there is indirect evidence to say that because temperature is rising, we're having unusual weather. We can say that. So we have to be more cautious. Again, we need to bring to the consciousness of all Nigerians that climate change is real, and unless we all participate in reducing the greenhouse gases emission, that is the anthropogenic sources, human source-related greenhouse gases, that is atmospheric warming gases, we may face very grave consequences.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise in this issue. Professor Afolabi Oladapo, an environmentalist, speaking on the climate change deal recently reached in Paris at the Climate Change Summit.